Hi guys, I'm Shmee, hello and welcome back to the channel where behind me here is a pretty special display of AMGs. I'm visiting Mechatronic here in Germany, who have kindly pulled some of the cars out from their collection, including in particular the car that I'm going to be taking a look at today, the SL65 AMG Black Series. Now I make no secret of my love for the Black Series models, how much I'm enjoying my SLS, how much I would love to add the new GT Black Series to the garage in the future, but this is one that particularly intrigues me. I'm not going to lie, I've never been behind the wheel of one. Today we're going to take a look around it, take it out for a short drive to experience what it's like and whether this could potentially be the next Black Series model in the garage, or perhaps it could be one of those, a C63 Black Series, although that's no ordinary C63 Black Series, and we just happen to also have the CLK DTM plus a 190e Evo 2 as well. This lineup is crazy here with Mechatronic, but let's take a look at the SL65 Black Series. When it comes to displays of cool AMGs, Mechatronic have pulled out some pretty special cars here, sandwiching my SLS Black Series in the middle. But let's have a very quick look around, starting with the 190 Evo 2, the 1990 homologation version of the DTM car, of which they made 502. Then we've got one of the coolest Mercedes-Benz cars ever, the CLK DTM. They did make a Black Series version of this, but the DTM is even wider and even more aggressive. They made 100 coupes and 75 roadsters. Then over here we've got the predecessor to the SLS Black Series in terms of being the previous model to wear the Black Series badge, except this car, one of 800, is not so standard. In fact, it's got a different engine, which we're going to talk more about later on. But before that came this, the third model that wore the Black Series badge, the SL65 AMG Black Series, which today we're going to be taking a look at in detail. This has always been one of the most badass cars. When you look at it around the front, look at how infinitely wide it is, look at these gigantic arches, look at the way it's all been completely redeveloped, but still in some form retains the glamour of the Mercedes-Benz SL. It's actually 250 kilos lighter than the regular SL65. They took out the foldable hardtop roof, gave it a fixed roof, two-seat, track-focused, very much about performance in line with the other Black Series models that had started with the SLK55, then with the CLK63, then the SL65, C63, SLS, and then obviously the latest, the GT Black Series. But this car has, as you can see on the side, a V12 Biturbo. It has a 6-litre twin turbocharged V12 engine making 670 horsepower, and get this, 1,000 newton meters of torque. The SLS in standard form makes 631 horsepower. Yes, you heard that right, about 39 horsepower less, and only 635 newton meters. Over 350 newton meters less than this does. The thing about the car though is it has a 5-speed auto gearbox. The torque was limited, the same torque actually as in the regular SL65. Power was increased by 60 horsepower, but to protect the gearbox from all of that power which is going through the rear wheels. What I love about it though is that it's just a kind of shape nobody would make now, sticking on these massive arches, having those gaping openings for cooling and airflow. Inside, to show you quickly in here, we've got a very stripped out interior. The European spec cars have the carbon fibre buckets, the carbon trim. In America they had to have the normal, more comfort seats due to registration to get them legalised on the roads. This car actually has very few kilometres on the clock at the moment, so I feel rather special that we're going to be able to take it out for a very, very short little drive. But I've never experienced the SL65 Black Series. I've always thought that they look so awesome. Look, you've got the carbon fibre around the back. It was introduced back in 2008. They only made 350 of them in total, so basically equal numbers to the SLS, making it a pretty rare machine. They are now substantially more valuable than they were back at the time, prices having, well, times by 2 or 3 since then due to the collectability. I've always thought these wheels are a really nice design as well, and you have the active spoiler. You can see it's up at the moment, but this sits back down and goes more flush with the bodywork. One of the best designs of spoilers I think that's really existed. Let's come and have a quick look at the engine though before we start the car up to take it out. So down here, if I can get this right, we've got the latch. There's actually quite a funny way to open this. The way you do so is with the catch, which is inside the three-pointed star. I might struggle to do this with one hand. Lifting that up then, we are greeted by the engine. Wearing the plaque, the one-man, one-engine AMG philosophy, the engine built in a Falterback, but a gigantic 6-litre twin-turbo V12, obviously requiring a lot of extra cooling for the extra power that it made. In fact, you have additional coolers installed just behind the grills in the front bumper, but this looks epically cool. You obviously have the carbon fibre that you can see of the exposed underside of the bonnet. Let me close this back down because I think we should go and start this up quickly to come round and have a listen to the way it barks into life. Obviously, key that needs to be inserted, actually the same key as the SLS design, basically slightly older, but more or less the same thing. This goes just to the right, then turn on the ignition, and then let's take a listen to the startup of the SL65 Black Series. Oh yes, it's not the loudest thing in the world, it's not the craziest sound, but it's such a cool noise. V12 grumble, but what's it going to be like to drive? Well, let's take it on out then and go and experience it. We're being joined as well, that sounds cool, by the CLK DTM, so we're going to take out the two cars together for a little drive. CLK DTM heading out first. I am going to try and work this out then. So in here we have the old school style automatic 5-speed auto gearbox, like in the SLRs actually, obviously replaced now by dual clutches. Very, very track because we do not have the best turning circle in the world. So into reverse, it's almost a mix because we have things like these seats which are brutally solid, like brutally uncomfortable, also quite wide as well. But then you've got an electric steering column. There's an electric steering column for the car, obviously being based on the SL being about comfort. So here we go, first few meters in this thing. Let's watch the incredibly low nose that we have and head out. Oh, that sounds cool. Head out behind the CLK DTM with its ridiculously wide rear arches. That thing is super rare. Obviously the DTM cars being, well, basically homologation required in order to race in the German Touring Car Championship. So let's just get a little bit comfortable. Obviously, with only 70 odd kilometers on the clock, we do need to drive it like a new car. I tell you, the seating position's odd. You actually sit quite high up, which is a little bit strange. I say that relative to the SLS, obviously, which is so much more an AMG in-house track project. We've got the aircon. I'm just going to turn this on so we've got some cool air blowing. There we go. Just get a feel for driving it. Obviously, like this, we're not going to be going flat out for a moment, but cool thing to be in, that's for sure. The CLK is off. I'm being slightly more ginger with it, and I tell you, it's actually really quite quiet inside here. You've got a few things that you can change naturally. Down here you can press manual for the gearbox. You've got ESP, which you can put into the sport mode, which frees up the car a little bit, because with this much power and this much torque in normal mode, everybody at the time doing the reviews and test drives was saying that, well, it's a lot to control. So actually I put it into comfort. We want the gearbox, there we go, into manual, one extra press. There's actually surprisingly little noise from it. I'm genuinely taken aback by that. Now obviously it's a beautiful sound, but it's not like driving a Ferrari V12 or something. We downshift it, obviously can't use too many revs, can't go flat out. The more I'm driving it, I'm starting to get a little bit more accustomed to it. But I do think that these seats are just brutal. The seats are spectacularly uncomfortable. They're reminding me of Aventador SV and SVJ seats. That level of firmness, no forgiving side to them at all, and in fact not really that supportive, just like sitting on a frame, on a tub. Obviously the car is so much about lightweight that things like the armrest here, it still has a lever, but this doesn't open. There's no storage bucket because they wanted to take as much weight out of it as possible. It's still not a light car, but it's significantly lighter, 250 kilos, because normally this would be a roof you could take off. Normally in an SL, obviously the SL going way back actually to the 300 SL, always actually SL stands for Sport Light, which this is Sport but less light. Obviously that's where the Black Series comes in. Yeah, I mean, it's a cool thing to be driving, and the view in the mirrors, if you have a look out at the arches,
they're just ridiculous. They're just, quite frankly, mental. And I think the wing is really nicely integrated. I think the car looks spectacularly awesome. But to drive like this on the normal road, it's not the most comfortable thing. I'm also taking some getting... Oh, that sounded cool. Through the tunnel. I'm also getting a little bit used to the pedal feel. The brake, I'd read about this in advance. The brake is quite artificially light, and you do feel like nothing really happens unless you're very, very assertive with what you want out of it, which is an odd driving experience feeling as well. I mean, it's a cool thing to drive, but perhaps not quite what I thought it would be. We're just exploring, going through a narrow bit, and I'm sure that this is plenty wide for this car, but I'm still slightly concerned about it because it's a wide thing. I also find it fascinating how this car, which was 4 or 5 years before the SLS, and obviously there was another Black Series between them, had so much more power. It's a funny one that the figures from this car, you know, even the new GT Black Series, it's 730 horsepower but only 800 Newton meters. It's only 60 horsepower more than this, but 200 Newton meters down on this. When you think about that, this thing was really a case of making it a brute, sticking in a massive amount of power into the normal, gentlemanly, grand touring car from the Mercedes-Benz lineup, which doesn't necessarily make sense, but is a glorious thing to remember this engine with. To still have the, well, to have used the 6-litre Biturbo V12 in a world now where it's all twin-turbo V8s, but the V12s are just something else. Anyway, we're coming out of town, which means a smaller opportunity to put the foot down and get more of a feel for it. Yes, you feel the turbos. Obviously, I'm being very, very delicate and ginger with it on some bumpy roads here. Yes, even there, the traction light is coming on. That's really quite funny. I'm barely accelerating. You can't hear much of it at all. And we're on the traction light. Got to be very, very careful, but just look at the CLK DTM out ahead. That's just really, really cool. He's off, totally off. There's not a lot of sound out of it, but you do start to get a bit more induction noise when you accelerate. Just some small flutters. I'm surprised that it's not louder. Even if I open the window a little bit more, oh, we've got some raindrops, that's not ideal at all in the slightest today. You hear a lot of the induction sound, the whistles from up front. That's much louder. And then in here, if I accelerate, well, right now all you hear is a bit of wind noise. Oh, window switches up there. I'm really, really surprised by this. You have to properly try and wake it up, but obviously I'm also conscious that this is pretty special and it's done very low miles and they're kindly letting me drive it today, which is really actually an incredible opportunity. So a big thanks goes to Mechatronic, because like I say, first time driving an SL65 Black Series, a car that I've always thought looked mega. In fact, these were built from 2008 to 2011, so it was the 5th generation of the SL, which actually had a 10-year lifespan. It was the 2nd facelift, so the 3rd look for this generation that they made with the Black, prototype car. Always interesting when those kind of things go past us. So yes, it was the last iteration. They built them for 3 years, but they only made a very small number of them. So these things were super rare. And I remember seeing one, gotta stop for the traffic light. I remember seeing one back, well, in the early days, before I'd even started my videos, I remember seeing one on the roads and just being like, that is one of the coolest things ever. Obviously this car is in black, but they had this magnificent dark silver, liquid kind of silver, which was the launch color, which just looked unreal. This thing suited it perfectly. Right, first gear. Yeah, that's basically a decently firm acceleration. It's an interesting one because it feels like a Grand Tourer, except for the seat, which is just, I don't like it. I don't like the seat at all. I really, really don't. It needs a soft cushion on top, but then you also don't want to sit on a cushion because it will raise you up even higher, which wouldn't work quite so well. Oh well, small things, hey? That's about all we're gonna hear. So I'm left with mixed feelings because I think the car looks incredible. This thing has road presence like you wouldn't believe. There's very little, that has ever been this crazy. I mean, other than the Evo 2 that we saw earlier in the CRK DTM, this was really, let's dial up the aesthetics of the car to a different category. But in terms of drive, it feels a bit like it's confused. It feels like a normal SL, a luxury Grand Tourer, that's very powerful, but not sporty in the way that the SLS is, or the C63 Black Series is. It's a completely different type of thing, and I'm genuinely left. This is one of those, you know when they say don't meet your heroes, and sometimes you meet your heroes like the F50 for me, and it's the best car in the world. I thought I would enjoy driving this more than I do. I appreciate the opportunity to drive it, but it's not the SLS. And you guys know how much I love the SLS. The SLS to drive is just a masterpiece. But this is a bit more docile. It's just a bit more normal driver. Maybe it needs to be properly amped up on a racetrack to really get the feel from it. And in fact, even just a few more spirited turns there already feels a little bit more alive. Yeah, the steering feel is actually very good. The steering feel is very good. I think it would just maybe a case of stick a big exhaust on it and I might like it. It sounds cliche making a video to say it needs a new exhaust, but I think that could be the difference. I don't know what it sounds like from outside, but inside it's just very calm. We're arriving back then to where the other cars are parked up. Oh look what's there in the middle. That is something really very, very special, which, well, we might be talking about in a moment, but for the time being, I guess we're going to get this parked up back at base and just have a few more thoughts.
While we're parked up, have a quick listen to this. You hear a lot more sound when you have the door and window open. There we go, some noise of the V12. That was a very quick bailout. As soon as we had parked back up with the cars here at Mechatronic, the heavens opened and it has been pouring with rain. Fortunately, the showers have passed and it feels like the sun is even trying to poke back through the clouds. But this has been a fascinating car to drive and experience. A car that I didn't really know what to expect from, but one that I think is quite confused about its personality. In many ways, it's like a GT, but then visually, it is one of the meanest and most aggressive cars of its era. The combination of the frankly ludicrous wheel arches, the openings on the bonnet, the rear wing that's currently up and looking super stealthy as well in the gloss black paintwork. It's a car that I think many people wouldn't even know what it is. One of those cars that if you know, you know, but otherwise it could just be a Mercedes-Benz SL that happens to be wearing a wide body kit. And of course there have been many replicas of the Black Series kit for the other SL models, but this is one of the 350 originals. One of the cars, well, the third car that AMG made to wear that Black Series badge. Now, talking of this, we need to come over to the C63 and talk about what is quite so significant and unique about this one. I think it is a total one-off for sure. We also, as I mentioned, have been joined as well by the SLS electric drive, which is spectacularly rare. They made single digits of these for customers, and there might be more to come with this one soon too. Now, this C63 Black Series is one of the original 800 C63 Black Series. It's wearing the track package with the carbon spoiler and the flicks, the canards that you have around the front, but it does not have the original engine. It does still have a 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8, but not the one you would typically expect to find. Let's come through and have a quick little look in here, where we have very much track spec with the bucket seats. We've got the harnesses, no seats in the rear. Those are replaced by the fixed cage that you have back there. But to open up the engine bay, have a look at what lies beneath, which creates quite a bulge. Literally a one-off. The work done by Mechatronic to install the engine from the SLS AMG GT3 race car, the race car version of the SLS engine in the C63 Black Series. That's a little bit mental. It creates more of a bulge up to the engine, but let's go take a listen as well to what it sounds like, which, believe me, is spectacular. So inside here, I do have a pocket full of Mercedes keys at the moment. I think it is this one, hope so. Let's give it a go, try it out. So, to pop that in over here, turn on the ignition. Let's take a quick listen then to the startup sound of this. Wow. Listen to the way that barks into life. What a cool sound this makes. 1,500 RPM. I'm not actually sure whether this or my SLS would be louder. I don't know the answer to that. But that is frankly silly. The sound of this car is absolutely silly. What a cool thing that they've done there. Really, really, very, very cool indeed. So let me step back out for a moment. I love that. Unique project, a special car to be kept in the Mechatronic collection. C63 Black Series with the engine of the SLS GT3 race car. Stupidly cool. This though, I mean, it's been an interesting one for me. I did hope that it would be a little bit more of a dynamic drive, a little bit more like SLS, for example, or like the C63. These are brilliant cars, I think, to drive in terms of being road cars, but very much with a track focus, an excited driving experience out on the public road. This was more GT, more GT. I think it's very special having the V12, having the V12 Biturbo. Clearly, that's an era that we're not going to see too much more of in the future. The AMG engine, at least, will be no more. I think visually it would just be an epic thing to add to the collection. It is so nice in terms of how it looks, and it signifies a period as well for Mercedes, a period of cars where they could do these crazy things, these crazy designs, and just throw out the rule book and do, you know, a project like the SL65 Black Series. So for today, I would like to say a huge thanks to the team here at Mechatronic for the opportunity to get behind the wheel of this, to drive it as well, giving chase to the CLK DTM, and to be around all of the other amazing cars that are just here at the moment. This is really, really very, very awesome. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Should one of these be the next Black Series model to arrive in the Shmeemobile's garage? One for some food for thought to discuss in the future. For now though, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers!